Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments now so I can answer your questions. Today I'm going to talk about how we increase our chances, our clients' chances of getting the green card and the work permit. There are certain techniques that you could use to be able to get that approval, and I'm going to let you know how we do it at our firm. Now, at the firm, hi there in Columbus, Ohio. Now, here at the firm, when we submit any kind of application, uh, there are there is one technique that we use to make sure that the application gets processed in a quick, efficient manner. In most cases, while I don't control processing times, I can sure do some things to make sure that the slowdown is not on our part, that we provide everything that's needed to make a decision. And the answer to this is detail, providing detail. Whenever I do accept cases, or whenever I accept cases that have been previously filed before, and then for some reason there's a complication, usually because the person filed it on their own, the first thing I do is I spot all the things that went wrong. Of course, we have to spot the things that go wrong to be able to fix it. And, so far we've been able to fix a lot of our clients' cases. The first thing we do, for example, is if we get a notice of intent to deny, that's not an official denial, but it's giving you an opportunity to correct the mistake made before to change their minds before they send you an official denial letter. And one thing I see across all the faulty applications is a lack of detail. The lack of detail is what leads to problems. So if information is missing, keep in mind that it can be construed as it can cause a delay at the minimum. An officer can then go ahead and ask for that information. But when information is missing, I've also seen it result in a misrepresentation or fraud immigration charge. It's not criminal, but an immigration misrepresentation or fraud charge against the individual. So this has happened because, and you know how it happens, is when the client is doing it themselves, or when they're getting somebody who is not really qualified to fill out these applications for them, they are very dismissive of certain details that should in fact be in the application. So for example, including children in the application, listing the children, including proper and detailed address history is very important. um, employment history, very important. Answering each yes or no question regarding anything in your past, answering it correctly, not just putting no or yes on a whim because it looks like the nice answer to put down, but making sure that you're understanding the implications behind it. And that's how we work here at the law firm, is we don't fill out paperwork. This is not paperwork, this is legal work. And so we focus on detail to make sure that when the officer is looking at that application, they have no questions. Or if they have questions, it's something that's there on paper already that they can look at and ask about, and we can address their questions. But from the get go, if that's not in the application, the officer, because remember, in most cases, the officer is not speaking to you to make a decision. Oftentimes, even before your interview, that officer has already made their decision, right? They're just wanting to confirm whether their decision is the right one. but they already have an impression of your application. And they're just, maybe if they schedule the interview, they're just trying to see if it confirms it. Another thing is in some cases, so for example, with VAWA petitions, the T status, the U status, there's no interview, right? So they're just going on what's on paper. So if you present a shabby application without any thought for the detail that the officers require, that can lead to, at minimum, delays, at the worst case scenario, a denial. So think about that. And this is where it's very important to get representation, because when I am doing this for my clients, I am not looking at it like I'm filling out paperwork. We go through a rigorous review process to make sure that everything is there, all the details are there, all the evidence is there. So let's talk about in regards to evidence, right? So, for example, with VAWA, even though any credible evidence is what's necessary to get this approved, it doesn't mean that they're saying any shabby evidence, right? They're not saying anything goes. The officer can still look at an application and make a judgment call based on the quality of the evidence you've provided. So when you submit your evidence, your statement, that statement should not be a blase one paragraph statement stating you have been abused or mistreated. You have to go into a lot of detail. You have to make sure that officer sees exactly what you went through, what the effect on you was. When it comes on to, say, evidence like text messages, you can't just screenshot the message, like the word, the bubble. You have to show on that text message screenshot that who is it coming from. If you have a timestamp on your text messages, you should include that information. You can't just print out the words and say, this is the message that was sent, because the officer still wants to the officer wants to see enough to know that this is credible evidence. I have been in interviews where the officer goes line by line through my client's address history, especially when it has to do with VAWA applications or removal of conditions where you're applying for a waiver. The officer they have done a background check, and on that background check they can see your past addresses in some cases. They can, and then they're comparing it to your address history on your application. Why is that why do they nitpick at address history? Because the address history is sometimes the key to show whether you lived with your spouse, whether your account of what happened throughout the relationship with your spouse is actually credible, and whether it's true. And so, a big mistake that happens is that you just want to run and you just want to submit this application as quickly as possible. So you just put anything down on paper, and then you put the address history on paper, send it in, and then you didn't really think about it in detail. Then that interview comes, and everything's going great up until that interview comes, and the officer is looking at this application that you submitted in a rush at the time because you just wanted to get it in. And the officer's looking at that, and they're asking you questions now about that. But they're saying the information they have on maybe previous applications, maybe on your background check, is completely different from the address history you have presented to them in that VAWA application or that T status application or that waiver application. That can lead to a lot of big problems. It's better to do the hard work first, because and take the time to submit it right, because when it comes to that point, Unfortunately, there are not a lot of officers that are going to sit down and try and hear and listen to you try to backtrack or try to now claim that it's that address or this address. They're going by what you put on that application, which in some cases you signed under penalty of perjury. And at that point, some of them may not take your explanation anymore. They may even go as far as to take it as an intention on your part to commit some form of fraud or misrepresentation. This goes for every single application. This is why I'm talking so generally today about the simple technique that my team use to get the approvals is detail to legal requirements, detail to facts involved, making sure that the officer can look at it and make sense of it without having to ask additional questions, right? So that's what I wanted to let you know, because I see so many times, I feel like there's a lot of rushing when it comes to these types of applications. And while it is best for you to evaluate your options uh, for this year, because we don't know how things are going to go, this is why you start early. Make sure you start early, because it takes time to make sure that a solid application is being submitted. It's not something, and no professional, if they're an attorney, they should not be sending it the next day. Now, we've had cases where we've had emergency filings that we've had to make. So, for example, with asylum, our client called, I believe, like the 10th, and in the consultation that we did, found out that the deadline for asylum was going to be on the 16th. And so we worked, um, made a lot of exceptions for our client in order to get that application filed before the deadline. So, in cases like that, we pay attention to detail, but it takes a lot of hard work. And that's the exception to the rule. That's not the rule. So, that's the exception, is that if we do agree to work under such tight constraints, we do pay attention to detail, but it's best to have the time to review details. So, this is where, if you want to evaluate your options, you want to get started, schedule your appointment by going to the link in the profile, and it will take you to the website where you can schedule your own appointment, or you can call, and we have staff that will be more than happy to help schedule your appointment. So you can go ahead, take those steps. Now, what I will do is I'm going to go through your questions very quickly, just to see what you have. You can ask me anything that's immigration related, and I will be more than happy to answer those questions. So, hi there, one boss lady. Nice to see you. Um, So, do you do your immigration as well? I don't know what that means, but I'll give you a little fun fact. So, for me, I know I have the Jamaican accent. I grew up in Jamaica. My parents are Jamaican, but I was born here in the U.S. So, I didn't do my own immigration, but it has become a big passion for me, because I've watched my parents go through the process, my grandmother go through the process, my husband go through the process. And so, that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm so good at it. Good day. I've been confirmed more than a year now in Jamaica, no interview. So yeah, it's going even more than a year, but I think you have less of a wait. So you've gone through most of the wait. I think you'll be getting something soon. Just hang tight. And what I'm talking about is the interview at the embassy, in, I think it's Jamaica. I'm coming, so I came last month. What a first step for working? So this is where you have to be very cautious, right? If you're coming here on a work visa, great. That's what's going to enable you to work. If you are coming here on a visitor's visa, you're not even supposed to be working. Um, what you have to do if you're outside of the United States, you have to make sure that you get the right visa to come here and work. Now, I often talk about helping immigrants to be able to get the status they need, and that it does include the work permit, but those are under very specific circumstances. It's based on my client's experience in their past, it's based on their family members, it's based on their qualifications to be able to get the work permit here in the United States. But right off the bat, just coming here on a visitor's visa is not going to get you the permission to work. Okay, so can I get a consultation with you? Sure, definitely. Go to the link in the profile. When you go to the link, you will see a link. Click on that link, and at the very top, you'll see schedule your own appointment, or you can always call the office as well, and we'll be more than happy to schedule that appointment. Now act fast because my schedule is filling up. So act fast. Make sure you take those steps now. Schedule your appointment early so you are in. How long after confirmation do you get an interview date in Jamaica? So I'd say a year and a half, maybe even up to 2 years. Is it advisable to submit my marriage based application on my own? You'll never catch me saying no. Um, my clients have reaped the benefits of having an attorney. It means their application gets sent, is done properly, and because of that, their processing times are a lot faster. As an immigrant, can you fly to Florida? It's going to depend. If you do not have your papers, as an immigrant, you can fly. If you don't have your papers, you have to make sure you have the proper ID to get on the plane. Now, as for Florida, I would say this, it's not really a safe place to be right now for people who don't have their papers. If you have current status, yes, Florida is okay. If you do not have your papers, Florida is not a safe place to be. But what if you have to come? If you have to come to Florida, I would say if you're coming here to work, it's not safe and it's probably going to be a lot harder for you. If you're coming here to live, same thing, because you're going to want to work and drive. So life can get a lot harder for you. If you're coming here and you plan on driving, be careful because now they're looking out for whether you have your papers, to be able to drive. So you have to be careful about that. So I would say two things would tell me to really think about whether it's safe to come. If you're coming here to drive, you're driving into Florida, or you're coming here and then you're going to drive around in Florida, and you don't have a valid driver's license to do that, or you are coming here to live and work, then think again. If you're coming here for a really quick trip, it should be fine. Should be fine. Risk is not zero. It's never zero, but should be fine. How can you get a copy of your naturalization certificate if you misplace it? So you'll probably have to reapply for that naturalization certificate. Good afternoon. How long after approval is receipt and green card? So I would say about 2 weeks. If one got a prima facie after submitting for one, it expired since June and hasn't gotten renewal, should you be worried? Sometimes they're a little backed up on the renewals. So if it takes say more than 2 months to get that renewal, then contact them to see if you can get it. Can you migrate to EB2 NIW when in the US? It's possible to do an adjustment of status, but all the conditions have to be right. Current priority date, of course, you have to qualify. Now, EB2 or the NIW, National Interest Waiver, is for immigrants who have an advanced degree, or if you have your bachelor's degree, at least 5 years of experience in your field, or you have exceptional ability. And then if you want to come here, you want to achieve an important goal, you have the means to do it, and it's advantageous to the United States to waive any kind of job offer, then this could be for you. After submitting your papers to the USCIS, do you still go for the interview? You might. If they call you for an interview, you have to, but there's no way to tell until, the process moves forward and you see how they're moving. Can you and your spouse move to another state while you have a green card pending application? Yes, but make sure you do your change of address, so that they schedule you for the right place for the interview, if they do an interview, and for the biometrics as well. For marriage-based green card, can you file your papers with just 2 years tax return? So they usually want the most recent, and they want confirmation that you filed the last three most recent tax returns. But usually the most recent one is crucial. But listen, remember, I'm not giving personalized legal advice. This is general information. So this is not telling you to just submit two tax returns. This is where it's very important to make sure you are represented. I'm in Jamaica. My wife is an American citizen. She don't want to continue with filing. What's best to do? She's an American citizen. Usually that's a red flag for some mistreatment going on. Give me a call. Let's talk about what your facts are. Determine whether you qualify for a special process that would allow you to apply without your spouse. All right, let's go. And so I'm gonna go through TikTok, and then I'm gonna go on to, all right. So let's scroll through. Can I be outside the US for 4 months, come back 4 months, and go repeatedly over years? Green card, that's risky. You're really putting your citizenship at risk. If someone comes for a visit visa, can they get a work permit? No, not just like that. You Some people can get the work permit despite having not on the visitor's visa, but if something happens that qualifies them for the work permit, that's a possibility. Um, Hello. My question is, if playing with parole when my application is pending and parole expire. So if you were paroled and you qualify for adjustment of status, it doesn't matter that the parole expired, but it depends though what kind of parole you get. Can I get work permit or none possible with parole? If your parole expires and you're not applying for adjustment of status, then you don't qualify for the work permit. You have to apply for the work permit before the parole expires. Can I be outside or outside? Answer that. I make some. Okay. Can you please tell me how long a mother daughter process takes? I think that's what that question means. So it can be 5 to 7 years. Will it affect me during filing for my T visa? There wasn't any warrant out for me or anything. Um, that is a complex question. So if you had a hit and run, there's no warrant. That there are still possible implications. Were you convicted of it? And if so, what were the penalties involved? But get legal advice, or if you have an attorney, talk to your attorney. Make sure you're letting your attorney know this. How long does it take? Um, how long does it take to get a work permit through the U visa? So I say a year and a half to 2 years. How long does a decision take for military parole in place? So about 3 to 6 months. How long does it take USCIS to respond to a service request? I sent my RFE for medical since June. So yeah, they usually give you a timeline. I finished my fingerprint appointment. How long? Until the citizenship interview. I've seen anywhere from 2 months to 7 months. Um, all right. Will I be penalized to file my tax with my husband without work permit? I'm married to a citizen. No, so you won't be penalized for that. So filing taxes without the work permit, you should not be penalized, but keep in mind, I would have to know more to confirm that. All right, I am. Oh, all right, I have to head out because I have another appointment. So I will get to your questions on Monday again. Please save your questions if I didn't get to it. I know I didn't get to your questions on YouTube. Please save your questions, come back, and I will answer your questions on Monday. Thanks again for your time, everyone. Bye bye.